Detroit is the greatest!
Straight up light you on fire for a Coney dog right now.
Darren McCarty comes back with Neiman in front of him. McCarty draws. McCarty in. McCarty scores! A magnificent goal! Darren McCarty!
Stafford takes, throws, end zone, Calvin, touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Motor City Sports Rant, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. I am Jason Jarvi. I'm back. You can follow me on Twitter at Jarvi the King. My co-host, Vinny Stubbs, V. Steezy, he's not here. He's working. He's got to earn that dollar. Got to get the cheddar. So sitting
Why?
I know, Vinny. But it's like you're here in spirit. You know, we have our special segment. We have Length or Girth later on in the show. But co-hosting with me today, as always, the Doc, John Macaroon. How's it going, Doc?
I'm here. I'm excited. Motor City Sports Rant, episode 21. I'm looking forward to actually having a chat with you, Jason, picking your brain regarding what the hell's been going on in the world of Detroit sports and other things as well. But first, all kudos to you. You had a big week at work. There was a seamless transition from the people that took vacation time, and you were running the boards over there at 105.1. It was a great time. I loved the shows. I listened, as you know, I'm a regular listener of all the Detroit sports stations. I really can't get enough of sports. Both stations, podcasts, everything. I soak up everything, and you guys really did a good job. All kudos to you, man.
Well, thank you, sir. It was a really great experience. I love working with Matt and Tom. We run a great ship over there. And that was the thing most important for me, is that there really wasn't a drop off in the quality of show from one producer to another. So, you know, that's all that I was looking to do, and I think they were happy with what I gave them. But yeah, it's been a week or so since I've seen you. The July 4th holiday has passed. Did you have a good one?
It was a great holiday. I had a great time with family, checked out some fireworks, and I was really surprised that, you know, I know that the laws have changed and they've really allowed people to get fireworks. The level of quality of fireworks that were going on in my sub was unbelievable. I threw up the Periscope and put up a video. The shows that were put on in my block were basically high-quality fireworks. I was shocked for well over good 10, 15 minutes. And I survived. I have all 10 digits. I have my fingers are intact. My voice is intact. So I remain professional, unlike some people around the sporting community. I was all good. I don't personally like lighting fireworks because something that happened to JPP of the Giants likely would happen to me, and I'm not risking it. Let the professionals handle it. I get to enjoy it, put up a video, and watch it, but I could not light off those booming fireworks. No way.
Oh yeah. I used to put on a show for our family, but it was before the ban on like the big fireworks. So it was just the stuff that you put in the street, let it go. It's mainly a bunch of noise and bright colors. I'm done. I'd like them to ban these fireworks again, because I'm not a part of our armed forces, but I think that's probably as close as most of us will ever get to like some kind of war zone. It's ridiculous. I get it at like 10, 11 o'clock. It's dark. It's the July 4th holiday. Set off some fireworks. You know, I can put up with it for about 2-3 hours, but they were going off until like about 1:30 in the morning. People are still sending off those M80s that are just gigantic, and they're luckily our dog, he's fine with fireworks. Like, he doesn't really care about any noisy sounds, but I know my sister-in-law, her dog, he probably was just beside himself. But yeah, Jason Pierre-Paul, we'll find out this week. I mean, we found out that he had the accident, and you had some people saying, oh, it's a serious injury. Some people were saying that it's not that serious. But it comes out this week that he had to have his right index finger amputated, and he's got at least 6 weeks recovery time on that. And on top of that, he now has to learn how to play without a right index finger. And it's a serious thing. You need that to, push off. And he's a guy who he uses his hands to, get by offensive linemen. He's going to have to change his game to where he's more of a power player, or I don't know, maybe they just put a big club on his hand and he just, punches people in the gut.
Now, Jason, here's the toughest part. He didn't have a contract. He had, the franchise tender offer going on. He didn't sign it yet, I don't believe. No, he didn't sign it. And then, if he plays well this year, he had a contract offer well over $40 to $50 million that he potentially could have given up. So this is really the mark of stupidity at the highest level. A professional athlete lighting off fireworks. I know they feel like they're invincible, but you got to be smarter. You have to be able to communicate with your friends, and your friends tell you, hey, man, knock it off. I know that if you and I and Vinny and Adam were going to go off and do fireworks, we would definitely talk about it and be like, listen, let's make sure we're super safe. Let's not make sure that nothing bad can happen, and then we take care of business. If you're an athlete making that much money, take care of it. Get a professional. You actually could spend $20 grand, get a professional to do it for you and your family, and take care of business. You don't risk your future by doing fireworks. It's the height of stupidity, and it's really shocking. It happened now twice. It's really shocking it doesn't happen more because these athletes think they're invincible, and it's the height of stupidity. If I'm the Giants, I cut them. I don't care if I see the report or not. You got a guy who is thinking about himself first, and in that situation, when you're signing a check for a player making that much money and you're not thinking about the team more often than not, I'm going to part ways with you. So he might not even, his earning potential has gone way down, and he's going to have an issue with money for sure.
Yeah, it was just a really poor decision on his part. I know for me as a broadcaster, I rely on my voice, so I make that choice not to smoke or do anything like that to down the line potentially hurt the career that I'm going into. So now I know with the contract situation, it's gonna be interesting. He hasn't signed his tender yet, and I don't think he's going to sign that tender until he knows that he's ready to play. Because if he signs the tender now, the Giants can put him on the non-football injury list, which that'll hold him out until week 6, I think, in the NFL season, and they can also possibly withhold his pay or part of his pay for that entire period. It's going to be a really interesting situation to watch and see what happens. It's a poor situation on both sides. I think it's a really dumb situation. I do feel bad for him because you don't want to see a guy just ruin it, essentially ruin his career.
Ruin his career by something that he chooses to do, and that you have so many other options to enjoy yourself. We're not saying don't do fireworks. Listen, right now, everyone likes doing them. It's a big thing. People now gather all together. They chip in some money. You go buy fireworks, and you have fun. You do them at the end of the night. That's what people look forward to. That's why everyone looks forward to nice weather, so you can get out, party, have some drinks, and do fireworks. It's an exciting time. But when you're an athlete and you have the means, it's not like it's going to be a big dent in his pocket. Get a professional and get it done. I think these agents and the people that are the followers and handlers of these athletes need to really, when holidays come up or when events come up like this, need to actually ask and prepare. What are you guys doing? Who's doing the fireworks? Let's make sure we set up a professional type situation to celebrate. And also with this story too, the media coverage has been outrageous.
Well, also, he's a New York guy, so he's in the media hub of the universe.
What were your thoughts when you saw that his medical records are being released publicly? You're having talks now about, JPP suing the hospital and potentially getting a settlement to avoid having the reporters, Adam Schefter at ESPN, going into court and saying, hey, how did you get his medical records? JPP's gonna probably benefit a little bit financially from a lawsuit. It's unbelievable. I just don't think that the media should actually cross that line and try to get his medical records. That's a little bit too far.
I agree. Whatever court case comes, it's all going to be settled because I think they want nothing to do with it, and it's really going to come down to Jason Pierre-Paul and is he playing football? I don't blame Adam Schefter because I think he's a guy with a proven track record. We haven't heard anything where he has bad sources. He got it from somebody in the hospital, so it's going to be that person who's on the line. We're also going to see going forward with two guys now losing digits on their fingers for a firework celebration. We're going to see some contract talks for any new contract coming up with stipulations saying, hey, don't do something you're gonna risk your life. And I mean, that brings up a guy like DeAndre Levy who goes out and plane walks. I'm sure it was completely safe, but you're definitely going to see that. And I know there was talk with Marcus Mariota, who he was drafted by the Titans this year, highly touted quarterback prospect. And there was talk that he hasn't signed his tender because there's some wording in the contract that they don't want him to surf in the offseason. What do you think we're going to see? Are we going to see more of these, hey, don't set off fireworks, don't do something dangerous in these contracts? Or is this something that the NFL, the Players Association, will fight on?
I'm kind of outraged that it's not in there now, even further. They probably have more specific ones that I think what they're doing is they're going specific case-by-case basis, where if a player gets injured in a motorcycle, then they start putting provisions for no riding motorcycles. If they're getting hurt shooting off guns, they're putting in provisions, hey, don't shoot off guns. I just think that they need to put in more stringent provisions indicating a wider array of dangerous activities. Whereas if you do something to injure a body part or you injure yourself in a self-inflicted way, we have the right to pull your contract and get it off the cap and make it a way that doesn't significantly hurt the organization when you do something that's going to hurt yourself. That's why these athletes, it doesn't make any sense. You have the means, you have the funds. Why are you going to start going surfing? By all accounts, Marcus Mariota can surf at 35, 36 if he has basically a 10-year career. Wait, you're going to have a whole lifetime to do anything you want whenever you want. Just those 10 years, it's a sacrifice. And I think that's why these athletes need to really consider just sacrifice for these years. You're getting paid a ton of money, well above the national average. Most people are making 40 to 50 grand a year, and you're making that basically per day.
Mm-hmm.
And per catch. And these signing bonuses are huge. These teams need to take this provision. I agree with them 100%.
I can see both sides of the story. From the team's perspective, yeah, you want to have these provisions where you're protecting your players. But on the other side of it, the NFL especially is the only major sports league that doesn't give guaranteed contracts. And you have MLB, NHL, NBA, all that money that they sign for, they're guaranteed. NFL, nothing is really guaranteed past your signing bonus or whatever your guaranteed money is. So, I don't know, when you have a $50 million contract with $25 million guaranteed, you have that $25 million, you may blow through that. And if you get hurt, what are you going to do down the line? I mean, if it was guaranteed contracts, I think that would be a definite where these provisions should be no question. But that's why it is a question right now, I think.
It's one of those things where this whole story with JPP and the other athlete, his name
CJ Wilson.
CJ Wilson. It's one of those things where you just want athletes to respect the organization and to make better choices.
Be smart. Come on.
Be smart. That's all you got to do. Common sense. Common sense would dictate that anybody in your family, okay? You don't want to pay someone. You want to be on the cheap. Anyone in your family. Hey, cousin Jim, take care of it. Uncle Fred, hey, take care of the fireworks. It's on you, man. I'm sitting back, having a cigar, drinking some Hennessy, relaxing, having fun, and do it in a professional way. That's just the way it is. Have fun, and but these athletes, that's why it's very fascinating to really study and look at athletes from, at least from my point, a psychological perspective. They're so narcissistic. They have a big ego. They're thrill seekers. So that's why they get into sports like football, because they have this need for an adrenaline rush. And I can't believe that football doesn't feel that. For me, that would be I'm not skydiving, I'm not into extreme sports, and no way, no how, if I'm getting paid that much money, I'm risking my life. Basically, wrap me up in bubble wrap in the off season and get me to training camp. That's it. And it's just a shame that the New York Giants fans got to deal with this, especially he's an integral part of that team. Craziness, huh?
Let's switch some topics. Let's talk a little bit Tigers.
Really?
The Tigers, yeah. They had a rough game yesterday on Friday. They lead 6-0 going into the 8th inning. I was fine with that. I was ready to go to bed. I think I nodded off, and I checked my Facebook and I say, "Oh, hey, the Tigers. How'd they lose this one?" I said, "What? They lost 8-6. Come on!" And this is and then you're gonna say, "Oh, it was Justin Verlander started. It was probably a bad start for him." No, it was a good start for Justin Verlander. It looked like he finally understood. So the Tigers lost, and they are 44-42. Pretty much, that's every time I've been on this show, they've been 2 games above 500. And they're just average.
This is bad.
It is bad. They're not bad. They're average.
Listen, Jason, here's the toughest part when you really look at this. The Tigers are a team, when you look at them, they have the ability to take a couple steps forward and make progress. But unfortunately, there's just too many holes that makes this team not a championship contending team. You have a guy like JV, makes a good start. Great. You have offense. Cespedes, V-Mart, JD Martinez, all go deep without Miguel Cabrera.
Yeah.
We've
actually been doing pretty good without him.
We've won games without him, but the bullpen comes in and blows the game. It's just one of those things where, you have success on offense and starting pitching, the bullpen blows it. When we don't have success, then the bullpen does well, and we get no runs late in games, and we lose games in extra innings. So it's just one of those things, one step forward, two steps back. The Tigers are what we thought they were going to be.
They are what we thought they were.
That's what they are. And
you got to crown them.
And when the game ended, the stats were ridiculous. The first time that a team came back from over 5 runs, like in 1,050 games in the last 2 years, that's the first time this has happened. The tough part is, though, Jason, the Tigers, we know we've explored pretty much every aspect of it, and we're going to do more on this podcast. Yeah. But look at KC. That train is not stopping. And every time you have a game like that you blow, you're now a game back in the division. 8 games back as we sit here recording this podcast. You're going to play 12 games versus Kansas City now in the next couple months. And you're going to have to basically win all of them. It's not going to happen. You're hoping to get 500 versus them. So how are you going to make that ground up? KC is not going anywhere. They're playing well, and their bullpen, when you look at it, is solid. They get through 6-7 innings with the lead. Their bullpen's not blowing it. And because of the situation with the Tigers, Soria's in there in Game 2 versus Minnesota after pitching 2 days before. He didn't want to have to go to Soria. Ausmus, that one's not on Ausmus. He had to, based on the fact that Rondon comes in and is ineffective. Awful. He comes in and he's a flamethrower, but he has not learned to command his pitches yet. And he's a young pitcher, but when you're called upon, Bruce Rondon, you got to go in there and not give up 3 and 4 runs in the 9th inning. You're called upon to do the job. He did not. He was one of the main reasons why we lost that game. And it's a shame because Justin Verlander had a great performance. He was mixing and matching his speeds. Location was great. His curveball was on fire. It was a great performance. And the sick part was he had so many pitches. We were all saying, even if he's at 120, you should keep him in there because the bullpen blows.
Yeah, but then it's a lose-lose situation for Ausmus. If he takes him out in the 7th inning, then everyone says, "Oh, why do you take him out? Why do you put the bullpen in?" And if you leave him in and he's a gas can in the 9th inning, then everyone says, "Oh, why didn't you take him out? You bring Soria in for a 4-out close." So Ausmus is in a horrible situation. I feel bad for the guy. It sucks because he was in a good situation when he came here. I think we've had some injury problems. I mean, you got to put a little bit on Dombrowski, not bring him trying to get Scherzer.
How devastating is this loss in your mind? Man, it's
a bad loss.
Yeah.
They have 2 games left before the All-Star game against the Twins. They need to win both of them, in my mind, to really put themselves in a position after the All-Star break to try and go on a tear. And Detroit fans, you need to put the AL Central title out of your mind because you can just wave it by. KC, they're going to win it. KC's got the Central, essentially. They would need an epic collapse right now to lose it. So we need to focus on the wild card. Right now, we're 2.5 games out of the wild card. If we win these next 2 games, I think we'll be a half game out because right above us is the Twins. Then we get, right after the All-Star break, we get Baltimore, who's right behind us. We need to just focus on getting some wins. We don't have to worry about KC. We should just let them do whatever they're going to do and hope that when we do play them, we get at least like a split. You wanted to at least go 500. I know that we've had really good luck against KC, and we seem to have their number, but it's going to be a crapshoot going down the line. They're in full I think they're in full scramble mode, trying to just throw whatever at the lineup board to see what works. They brought Jeff Farrell up, and they've sent him back down to Toledo. He was a failure. Drew Verhagen, Jeffrey Marte, Mark Krause. I think Marte and Krause are surprises, but they're probably not going to stay up here too long. So it's going to come down to the trade deadline, and what are we going to do?
Yeah, that's the question everyone's talking about around town. inevitably everyone's talking, okay, should the Tigers buy or sell? What should they do? And we've talked about it ad nauseum. We've explored it in-depthly and greatly. The Tigers should sell because that's what they should do.
Team
would sell.
Yes.
They should sell because the farm system is bare and you cannot fleece many more teams right now. Dave Dombrowski has fleeced Tampa Bay. He's fleeced other organizations to get talent in here. And the J.D. Martinez move definitely gives him some cachet because dude's balling. Dude is hammering the hell out of the baseball. 25 home runs. We have to give him credit. The bullpen is in shambles. It's a disaster. But he found from the scrap heaps and the scouting department J.D. Martinez. And he is a great player and one that I think we're going to keep around here and could be the next big superstar in Detroit. So we give him a little bit of credit. But right now, we can't add too many pieces because every team that's going to buy can throw some prospects out there. Who are we going to throw out there?
Can throw out more people.
Right. So we're looking at Harden, Samardzija, on the high end, Cueto or Chapman. You're going to probably get one or two pieces at the trade deadline. Look at this though, Jason. Last year, we picked up David Price, and the city basically had a party that day. And I know I did on Twitter. I was like, done, wrap it up. We got Verlander, Scherzer, and Price. The best free agent, David Price. We didn't win. We got bombed and flamed out versus Baltimore. None of these guys available are going to make that much of an impact.
No.
Not that much. So,
and yeah, I've said it before that it's not going to be one trade that's going to make a difference. If you bring Johnny Cueto in, you're probably giving up a ton to get Johnny Cueto, and that's not what we need. We need to be a buyer. You need to be one piece away to getting that. I mean, that's what Oakland did when they traded for Lester last year, right? And I mean, it worked out for a little while, but it didn't win them a championship, and they lost Lester. And it's going to take way too much to give up. How much of bringing up all these people is trying to stir up trade bait and trying to get some of those lower end guys, maybe like Scott Kazmir or Ben Zobrist from Oakland, because Billy Beane, he's a wheeler and dealer. He may be able to, but any of those trades are probably going to involve Steven Moya, Tyler Collins, and unfortunately, I think a lot of them might involve James McCann.
Yeah, and to Jason, that's why it's advantageous for us to sell now is you got 4 to 5 pieces on the main roster that can get you 2 to 3 players each. If you get highly ranked 1 and 2 top prospects in the organizations that you're working with and trading with, then you can start rebuilding that farm system and you can compete next year. It's not like the Illiches are going to just stop spending. The payroll is going to be high. It's just right now the tough part is the talent that we've kind of decided to put money in is a little bit older, and the guys that are considered top prospects in the organization, like a Castellanos, like a Collins, you kind of need a little bit more from them on the main roster. So when we're talking about how we're going to improve this team, I don't think that this team should buy. I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. So they should look to get as much as they can, address the bullpen, maybe address starting pitching, and look to really compete for next year and the year after. And you can sell it in a way that's not going to piss off everybody. You can just come out and say, listen.
I don't think so, because I think the fans,
we're all mad.
Win.
We want to win, but we're not going to. You think in any move that if you bring in a Cueto that it's going to signal off to the fans, we're going to win the World Series? No, the bullpen is in shambles. You can't just get one bullpen arm. You're going to need to kind of steadily rebuild the whole thing.
I mean, they're in a horrible situation because the moves that they should be making are moves that are essentially you're tanking the year, because the moves that you really should be making are trying to move, Cespedes, David Price, and those are 2 guys. They're going to be free agents to the end of the year. You're either going to have to pay them out the ass, or they're going to go for nothing.
You could move Nick C. You could move Avila. They might draw some talent that you could probably put in next year.
How much? I mean,
not how much, but
Nick Castellanos, you might be able to get like some prospects for. I'm not sure if you're going to get high prospects though. Alex Avila, I don't know how much you get for him. You might get a helmet.
No, I think he does got respect across the league for being able to manage the pitchers. Look at our pitching staff; they've done a little bit better with Avila coming back. I mean, it's up and down, but Avila does have command of the pitchers, and he knows how to call a good game. Look at Anibal Sanchez, almost a no-hitter.
He knows how to call a good game, but he's also a bump on the head away from ending his career, and he's not going to go anywhere because his dad's he's in the boardroom. And I do kind of feel that we're in a similar situation that the Red Wings had when they had Mrazek and Howard. You had the veteran goalie who's a pretty good guy, but he's had some struggles, and then you got Peter Mrazek, who's the up and comer. He's a raw talent, and he's who we really should be focusing on. And that's where we are right now. We have Alex Avila, who, yeah, he can pitch a good game. All the pitchers, he has a great rapport with them. But then you have James McCann, who his ceiling is so much higher than Alex Avila, but he's younger and he doesn't have the experience. And that's the guy that we should be rolling because he's got power, he's got speed. You just got to give him a chance. And
Okay, now I want to pick your brain a little bit regarding the way now the organization has been put together. I don't believe it should take 5 and 6 seasons to rebuild the bullpen. Now, they have made the moves. They've thrown their chips in for Joe Nathan and for Soria, and the moves have been, like you're doing now, dropping your head because, Soria is okay, but lately he has been a little bit up and down. Nathan was a guy that we basically wasted $20 million on. You've pieced together Albuquerque, you've brought back Chamberlain, you're trying to work as many guys from the minors in, and it hasn't worked. So the reason why they haven't, it doesn't put butts in the seats. It's not sexy. Besides the closer, fixing the bullpen is not as exciting as bringing in like a Cespedes or a great starting pitcher. So that's why I think they haven't done it. But the need has been so glaring, and the hole has gotten bigger. And that's been the biggest problem with Dave Dombrowski. And so reports are kind of leaking out into the media that he hasn't re-signed yet for next year. Now,
he's probably got...
His last contract that he resigned was late August of 2011 for 3 more years or 4 more years. And so now this contract negotiation I want to talk to you about is, do you think, based on the way the team has been put together, the way the minors has been decimated, that should we resign Dave Dombrowski, or should we maybe look and put some feelers out for other general managers to kind of maybe now, Dave, you give him credit, but maybe get another leader to get us to the next level?
I think the bigger issue here is Mike Ilitch. Mike Ilitch, everything that we've been doing has been going for win now. Dombrowski is handcuffed a little bit. And it's a similar question with Babcock. Does he want to come back? Does he want to, have to keep going after all these big name guys, re-signing all of your all-stars that your owner is super loyal to try and win a championship that year while you're just decimating the farm system? We have nobody in the farm system. And that's what we're probably going to end up doing. We're probably going to make a move for some pitcher, and we're going to just fleece out the rest of our farm system.
Oh, okay, what's your opinion? Do you think that Dave Dombrowski should be the guy that should be the general manager of the Detroit Tigers?
I think he should be the general manager of the Detroit Tigers.
Why?
Because I think he knows talent. We've seen him. Like you said with JD Martinez, he went and got Miguel Cabrera. I mean, I'm not sure all those bad contracts are all his fault. The $28 million to Justin Verlander, don't you think a little bit of that is Mike Ilitch saying, hey, we need this guy. He's our ace. He's our bulldog pitcher.
Now, that's a great question. That's a very good question to look at. Yes, I remember the days when the Tigers would lose 100 games, and they were basically, people were talking like they lost a whole generation of fans because for the whole 90s, they struggled. And we got to remember, we've only had success since 2006. That whole window from the 90s to 2006 was god-awful. You bring in Dave Dombrowski, and he starts changing the culture. He starts bringing in a Pudge Rodriguez. He starts bringing in players that helped this team win. We got to the World Series. You brought in the big name manager. But now what happens is, what we've seen is the transition period, the time when you start getting those guys that get up there in age and the contracts, and the retooling of teams year to year has really kind of been a disappointment. By shipping off Pfister, by kind of retooling this team in this way, you kind of see that, the way that this team is looking now is not put together well. You could say maybe letting go of Torrey Hunter was a bad mistake. You see the fire from Minnesota now. They're a team that the Tigers used to have those nice comebacks, and now a team like Minnesota with a Torrey Hunter is getting some production out of him. So I don't think that if Dave Dombrowski goes to Ilitch and says, listen, we can sign JV to big money, but also trade him. You got rid of Prince Fielder. You were able to move $28 million a year. And
you can only do that so many times.
Right, but some people are even saying, why get rid of Prince? Even, some people are debating, hey, you got Kinsler who's batting under 280 and is making some lapses in the field. And you can see why Texas is a little bit mad at him at a $16 million clip. Miguel, his numbers are great, but he could have benefited from having Fielder here. So what moves did he make? If you dissect them a little bit and you play that game, the transitional period leaves a lot to be desired in terms of he knows how to build a team, but does he know now how to kind of deconstruct it and move it along?
Yeah, and I think
it's not easy to do.
That's a really great question, and I think he can, but I just don't think I don't think management would let him do that. I think the smart thing to do would be to try and trade, David Price, Yoenis Cespedes, to try and get some really great prospects. I know you brought up to me about trading a guy like David Price or Cespedes to KC, who's our division rival, which, it's hard to think about letting go of those really great guys. It's the way you feel whenever you bring up about those great players. Whenever anybody says, "Hey, let's trade Calvin Johnson," let's trade Pavel Datsyuk. You feel attached to those players because they give it for you. David Price has been phenomenal. I mean, I think people felt that same way earlier when we started the podcast when I said, "Hey, why not trade Thomas Tatar?" And you're going to get the most you can out of him. So I think David Price, Cespedes, both it's a different situation because they're going to be free agents at the end of the year. But I think you can get a ton for these guys. They're still, Cespedes is definitely younger. Price is getting a little older, but they still have a ton in the tank. I think if you trade Price or Cespedes to KC, who they have 4 pitchers who are in the top 70 of the top prospects in the MLB, I think you could get at least 2 of those guys for either Price or Cespedes. And you can definitely get something for one or the other, trading them to somewhere else. We should be sellers trying to build this team from the minor leagues. That's really what we should be. And I think Dombrowski could do that, but they're not going to let him do that.
Now, the interesting part is what a question, and it was brought up a lot, and that's why these debates are very interesting and very fascinating. The tough part is if you trade David Price to Kansas City and you could get stuff for him, ideally it's great, but how rough would it be that the Kansas City Royals and the troubles that they've had can come back and rebuild their team with a little bit less of spending and get to the World Series? Could you imagine that? Could you imagine watching the Kansas City Royals celebrate a World Series championship? And they last won in 85. We last won it in 84. There's 2 parts to this. What should they do and what the fan base would accept? Because you do have to kind of consider how upset the fans would be. How upset would you be if they made a move for David Price to Kansas City? I would, on one level, be very upset, and it would sting a lot to watch Kansas City take our final piece and celebrate a title before us. But if those prospects were to come back in a year or 2 and we can retool and have confidence in bringing in guys that can produce and we have success, I'd be willing to eat that and accept that. I would say, yes, trade with Kansas City for longer term gain, because right now the anger that I felt for the Tigers is over. I felt it. I think when Adam and I started the podcast, and the anger really came out when they hired Ausmus. That's when I said, this is a World Series team. You don't put a first-year manager with a World Series team. That's never going to work. I don't see an avenue where it can work. And I was told, oh, you're pessimistic and da-da-da-da-da. I think that was the key mistake, not with the players. It was the choice of manager for this team. So now... So
do you think if we would have gotten a guy like Terry Francona or Rod Gardenhire, brought them in with that team, do you think we would have...
It wouldn't be worse. It wouldn't be worse. Right now, like I said...
But you don't know.
No, I don't know. But I do know that Brett Ausmus, in the first 2 years, is an average manager. He's not really killing the team.
But it's an average team, too. We have no bullpen.
Yeah.
We have the hitters who are hit and miss. You have Cabrera. You have Vmart. You have Cespedes now. You have JD Martinez.
Well, the question
is... The manager isn't the one hitting the ball.
Well, the manager kind of would decide when the pitcher would come out, when to use them, which ones versus which players in their matchup. So that's something you can question. But right now, Brad Ausmus isn't doing things in-game strategically to really uplift the team. He's not like killing the team, but there's a mistake or two he makes in terms of, when he's substituting the players, like that Krause play earlier this week. That was horrible. Got thrown out by a mile, and he should have been pinch ran for. Certain mistakes are coming out, and people are saying, okay, we're starting to see the inexperience of Brad Ausmus. A manager with experience might have not made those mistakes and cost the team some runs. A run into a game, it catches up to you. So the question is, I think a different manager would probably have 5 to 10 game difference right now with this team. The team probably would be 5 games better, right around the record of Minnesota.
Well, I mean, it's interesting to speculate. And then I think we'll never really know. Mm-hmm. What were you going to say?
Yeah, the final question I wanted to ask is, let's say now the Tigers in this era with these players don't win a championship. How do you view Dave Dombrowski? Do you give him credit for rebuilding this team, taking him from the cellar? Or do you say absolutely horrid tenure? How would you rate his tenure? Would you give it like a C, B minus? How would you say his tenure would? How would you encapsulate his tenure if he doesn't win a title for us?
I would rate it the same way that I'm rating this team right now, average. He got us the World Series. He got 2. And he's got us to an arguably the best hitter in baseball right now. So average. You had Justin Verlander at his prime. You had Scherzer like right before he was getting had his perfect game. So average. He made good moves. He made bad moves. He had Leland for forever, and now he has Ausmus, who I think he's showing his rookie prowess.
No, I think the talk is really, when you really look at the big picture, it's a little bit easier to get to the top by buying players, upping the payroll from where it was, from the 70 millions to the 170 millions. It's easier to do that than it is to retool and stay at the top. And I don't think I am now looking at it. I'm not as mad as Dombrowski because I don't think it's easy to stay at the top. There's only a couple teams, the Giants, the Cardinals, that are really consistently in that picture year in, year out. Mm-hmm. It's easy to get there. It's easier to say, hey, listen, we can buy, these players, da-da-da-da-da. It's more difficult to move pieces along, to decide which players get those big contracts, to decide who stays and who goes. And Dave Dombrowski has made some moves that he likely will look back and go, I didn't make the right moves. And that's what's hurt them now. Yeah. And so it's interesting talk to see what's going to happen with DD if he leaves. Ooh.
Yeah, I think a good discussion for another day would be the 2 teams you mentioned, the Giants and the Cardinals. They don't have to shell out extra money for a DH. Like we have Victor Martinez, though, we tried out, where all he does is hit. But I think that's a conversation for another day. Tigers, we got to hope that they go on some kind of a streak, but we're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we got a little Pistons and Red Wings, and we'll see what happens on length or girth with the Motor City Sports Rant, DetroitSportsPodcast.com.
That's why I love doing this podcast, Jason. 30-minute talk. We're not restricted by much because podcasting is over the internet. We are free to kind of explore our issues, go back and forth without the restrictions of too many commercial breaks. But in order for us to continue to do these great podcasts and to have these great in-depth discussions regarding our teams, visit our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. By visiting the website, clicking through those banner links, supporting our sponsors, those that support this project, you allow us to continue to provide great podcast content twice a week, and now we're adding our 3rd episodic weekly podcast to the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. We got the Doc and Jock program every Thursday, Motor City Sports Rant every Monday, Tigers Talk with Churko and Company coming every Wednesday, starting July 29th. Thank you for those that's been supporting us and allowing us to talk about what we're passionate about. DetroitSportsPodcast.com is where you need to go to help us continue to provide amazing content for the network, and we greatly appreciate those who have helped us. And now, back to the Motor City Sports Rant with Jason Jarvi and John the Doc Macaroon.
Motor City Sports Rant, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. It's actually kind of quieter. I feel less stressful without Vinny here. I love Vinny.
I knew we were going to talk a little bit about Vinny, but you're a little bit less stressed. Talk about it. How you feeling?
I love Vinny. he bounces everywhere.
Oh my God!
It's his style. And, after 20 episodes, I really, I've grown to understand where he's going, and I'm able to riff with that. But it is kind of nice having a back and forth conversation without having a dude, oh my God.
Oh my God!
I look forward to seeing you next week, Vinny. You better be here.
Vinny,
or I'm going to do something that you'd probably do to me.
Get in the studio, Vinny.
So the Pistons, they wrapped up their summer league basketball down in Orlando this week. They, Stanley Johnson, I was a little critical of the pick. I wasn't a huge fan of the guy. I trust Sam Van Gundy because, the dude's he's a boss. So Stanley Johnson, he's looked good in summer league, and as he really should, though, because you're playing against guys who are trying to get into the league. So the two guys who are probably going to make it up to the big team, you got Stanley Johnson, Darren Hilliard. He probably has an outside chance. Apparently, there's an Adonis Thomas who might, he'll have a chance in training camp. Through free agency, we pretty much whiffed on everybody. We didn't get Draymond Green. You didn't get Tobias Harris. So, you're looking at the roster right now. We made a trade. We made the trade that seemingly sets our lineup. And we didn't really have to give up much. I think we gave up a 2020 second round pick. So the trade brought us Marcus Morris, Reggie Bullock, and Danny Granger. And Marcus Morris has been told by SVG that he's the starting three. So that gives us a lineup right now of Reggie Jackson, KCP, Marcus Morris, Ersan Ilyasova, and Andre Drummond. Doc, does this team scream playoffs?
Ooh, that's the tough question. The Pistons are being built in the likeness of what Stan Van Gundy wants. Mm-hmm. Okay, now you have
1 in, 4 out. Yep.
You have Marcus Morris, who has got a good deal, $5 million a year, and some nights he's going to be the biggest post option threat that you got. But the team is being built the way that Stan Van Gundy likes, and yes,
as it should.
Yeah,
that's the way, and that's how I've said.
Yeah,
it needs to be built.
I think right now everyone in town trusts the moves that he's making, but the second year is going to be critical. He's made moves now to improve the team, and we're going to have a couple questions that we got to look at. First, how is KCP going to advance this year? Is he going to be the guy that's going to be a consistent shooter? Is he going to be a guy that is more well-rounded and not so up and down? Second, is Reggie Jackson going to be worth the $16 million a year? You've now hitched your wagon to Reggie Jackson and said, hey, boom, this is the guy, $16 million a year for the next 5 years. That contract is going to dictate how now people are going to view him. He's going to be a volume shooter. He's going to lead this offense. So he's going to have to be the guy that facilitates to Marcus Morris, to KCP, to creatively select his shots and make them. He's going to have to make at least, I would say 40% of his three-point shots, and he's going to have to be a consistent leader. And know, the toughest part with these guys is to know, back off. Larry Brown and Chauncey, butted heads, as well as Larry Brown and Allen Iverson, because these shoot-first point guards, while it's nice for the stats and it's nice to get that contract, I think for winning, the sake of winning, you need to be a better facilitator and get more guys involved. Jackson's seen that. He had success last year when he got higher assists, but when he shot the ball that well over 15 to 25 times, it wasn't that good. So he's going to need to be more selective, and I like the starting lineup. I like the way the team is built. It's going to be now incumbent upon them to actually do it. And Ilyasova needs to be consistent, how Drummond's going to progress. I'm kind of excited. I like this. I like the newness of the team. I just, when I think about it, my patience is thin because it doesn't take 7-8 years, in my opinion, to rebuild. That's where I'm at. I'm just like, I don't want to wait 2-3 more years to get to that level. I want to be there now. And in this league, the teams that are successful, you got San Antonio bringing guys in to take $11 million less to come there. And we can't, when the free agency struck, we got the big fat dial tone, which is not a big deal that nobody came here because we get to keep some money for the big free agents. But for the Pistons, I'm excited to watch to see how this team gels.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's all going to come down to the progression of players. KCP, I think, he's the main piece because he's the guy he's going to be your shooter. He's going to be the guy who you want to see score 20 to 30 points a night. And I think hopefully this contract with Reggie Jackson, he sees this as hey, Stan believes in me, so this is my team. So maybe that'll light a fire under him. And KCP and Reggie Jackson together, they could be one of the better backcourts in the NBA. So then you add Marcus Morris, he's I think a 5-year veteran, Ilyasova, who's a veteran, who apparently a lot about him because of your fantasy basketball. And Andre Drummond he's the other key piece. He's going to be the big guy down low. What he can do, if he can improve as a defender, if he can be a monster on the offensive and defensive boards, we can easily make the playoffs. In the East, it's such a bad Eastern Conference. We can easily make the playoffs with a 41-41 record, and I can really see us doing that. I'm not really scared by teams. I mean, the Bucks, they made it into the playoffs. So they have Greg Monroe and who else? They have Jabari Parker, who he's going to be coming off an injury. That Michael Carter-Williams, right? I mean, Toronto. Are you scared by Toronto?
No, there's no. See, here's the best part: when you watch the Pistons last year, when they were playing well, they played with everybody. They beat San Antonio. They beat Cleveland. They were the best team in the league. They were shooting lights out. They were dropping over 110 points. They brought life back to the Palace. And that injury kind of cut the season short. And a couple players more that we can talk about is, what are you going to get from Brandon Jennings?
Indeed.
And if we get something for him, if he shows a flash, then he's now a piece that maybe you can move along to maybe get another draft pick to booster the team. And a player that was brought in last year that kind of had a rough season because of injury and was very inconsistent was Jody Meeks. He signed, I believe, a 3-year, $19 million deal. And his first season with the Pistons showed some flashes of the guy that we need. Can spot up, shoot the three, and can get hot.
Yeah, I really think this team, as built right now, it's going to be interesting basketball to watch. I think if everybody buys into what Stan is preaching, if you have Brandon Jennings coming off the bench, and I think it's only a matter of time before Stanley Johnson is in the starting lineup, because I really do think he has talent. He's probably going to replace Marcus Morris. I think that may cause some issues because Marcus Morris, he comes in and Stan tells him that he's the starting 3. We just drafted a guy, number 1, who Stan came out and said he's not going to give somebody time if they haven't earned it. Stanley Johnson, I think he's from what he's shown, what he's talked about, he's a hard worker, and he's going to work to get in the starting lineup. So I think it's only a matter of time before he's in the starting lineup. So I think once that happens, it'll be interesting to see because we may, I don't know.
Stanley Johnson is going to get a fair chance to get into the lineup, and I do like his swagger. I like the fact that he's got confidence, and he's a guy that I think can be an energy type guy, make some plays, can bring the life to the arena when he makes a shot, and can get excited. And youthful players always make a team more fun because of their youthfulness, their energy, and the Pistons are going to need that. They're going to need that more than ever. The intangibles, you would say. The team's got basically the fundamental pieces in place. We're looking now at the intangibles. How's the team going to gel? How are they going to play together? Are they going to, they're going to be better defensively, which I like personally. And the question is going to be, are they going to play the brand of basketball necessary to win? And SVG's proven that he can do that. It's just, I'm looking at it, the big picture wise, how close are we to winning a title? I don't like talking about how close are we to getting the 5th to 8th seed. I like to, I was telling Adam on the Doc and Jock podcast, I just would love to have a player say, I'm going to take way less money to come to the Pistons. That would be awesome. And I think Stan Van Gundy, of all the general managers, of all the people that were out there, was a great hire. I think that you've seen flashes. So he gets another green light, another pass from us to do what you got to do, but make the playoffs and play a good brand of basketball. And I'm curious, well, what'd you think of the whole DeAndre Jordan disaster that happened with the Cavs? Now, that's such a fascinating story to look at and talk about. A guy gives his word, and a week passes, which the league, I think, is going to look at and talk about and say, wow, this kind of can be a big problem where these guys are giving their words to teams, and Mark Cuban's not going to sit back and be like, okay, DeAndre, no problem. You can tell me you're coming and then back out. No, there's going to be some talks behind the scenes and be like, listen, when the signing period comes, free agency starts July 1st. You can start talking. Just be able to sign July 1st, not a week later. That's really, when you look at it, a stupid rule. And the NBA higher ups need to kind of in life, you need to kind of think ahead and do some things called preventative measures. You can't let the teams negotiate for a week before they sign. You're going to have issues like this. DeAndre's like, okay, I'm going to come. And then his teammates are, kind of get to him and be like, don't go. And then you had the whole fiasco, which embarrassed the league. You can't have owners bitching and moaning with reporters. It looks bad for the league, and it was just a messy situation. And that's not even talking about DeAndre Jordan as a man and his word.
It's a really odd situation. I think this is probably one of the first times that we've really seen something like this happen. I know there was the Carlos Boozer incident where he asked to be released from his contract because he's going to come back to Cleveland, and then he bolted for Utah.
Yeah.
But, as the act of, saying, hey, I'm going to go here, and then, having a change of heart and wanting to go to the Clippers, I have no issue with that. He didn't sign a contract. He didn't do anything wrong that way. But the fact that the minute that he had doubt of saying, hey, maybe I don't want to go to Dallas. Maybe LA is my home. That's where I've been, and that's where I want to stay. That he should have been on the phone with Mark Cuban. That 5 minutes after saying, hey, I think I kind of want to go back to LA. And I'm sure Mark Cuban would have given his best pitch to get DeAndre Jordan to stay because the Mavs they do have a good team. They got Dirk Nowitzki. And they got Rick Carlisle, who he's a great coach.
Can you imagine a team, though, that like Dallas now, you have the money to give, like the Pistons. You have money. You have the cash. You have okay, DeAndre, we're going to make you the guy. We're going to, we know that you're beefing a little bit with Chris Paul because he's not giving you the rock. He's not sharing the load with you. We're going to bring you here. We're going to make you the guy with Dirk. And you turn around and say, you know what, I'm not ready to be the guy and stay with your team that you're not 100% comfortable with. The situation is tough on both fronts in that DeAndre Jordan's now not a man of his word, which as a guy, you need to be able to make your statements and live by it. And second, you had the chance to be the man.
I feel bad for DeAndre Jordan's agent because that guy, he's not going to be able to, he's done the business.
He's done, yeah. Exactly. And the whole situation was really uncomfortable. So what they're going to do. They're going to shorten that period of time when players can actually sign the deal and move it forward. But yeah, DeAndre Jordan's going to be with the Clippers, and I don't think, really, in all honesty, it's DeAndre Jordan. It's not going to make that much of an impact. He's going to fit in well with the Clippers. He's going to be part of that team, but I don't think the Clippers are they're basically a team that's
they're the Clippers.
Permanently up-and-comers. They're not going to take that next step. They're placeholders, as you would say. Mm-hmm. They'll be in the playoffs. They'll make some noise, beat some teams. But when it comes down to crunch time, that some team like Golden State, San Antonio, maybe OKC will come in there and swoosh and advance past them rather quickly. They're like the Milwaukee.
Yeah. So let's move it on to a little bit on the ice. Let's go to the Red Wings.
Yes, sir.
They had the free agency period. They actually were able to go out and get some top guys. They got Brad Richards, Mike Green, and they got a new contract for Gustav Nyquist.
4 years, $19 million. Nice.
I know, he's making the money. So we got our guys. I think the Wings right now are they in a win now situation as well?
Yes. The Red Wings, based on perception and their cachet, are always in a win now mode. You got young talent. You have a goaltender that people think is going to be above average to maybe great. So
I think you look at a team like the Wings, and it's weird. You have the Tigers and the Wings owned by the same people, and the Wings are kind of what the Tigers want to be because the Wings, they're in win now mode, but they're also set up for the future. They have guys like Datsuk and Zetterberg, and then you bring on Brad Richards, Mike Green. Both of those guys are getting a little older. Cronwall, you got the aging guys, but then you also have all the young guys. You got Nyquist, Tatar, Mantha, and Larkin are in the system, and we're set up for years to come.
Okay, now let's be fair. Gustav kind of has disappeared in the playoffs. He's not a major point contributor the last couple playoff runs.
How many playoffs has he been in, though?
2, I think, his last 2 years. So he hasn't. But if you really look at how many points he got versus Tampa Bay. It wasn't more than 5, that's for sure. So he's going to need to now. He's got the big contract. When it's crunch time, this is the year that he's got to put up some goals and some more production in the playoffs, because this is Red Wings. This is Hockey Town. And I know people are a little bit down on hockey here that, oh, you know, are you guys really hockey fans or are you Wings fans? That's irrelevant. This Red Wing team right now is a team that you should be watching. Get on board. Even if you're a bandwagon fan, we're okay with that. Get on board, watch the Red Wings. This is a good young team. And, you know, they're not going to say it. They're not going to say that the free agents didn't come because of Babcock. But the moment Babcock's not with us, we get we get 2 of the 3 guys that we wanted. Come on now. You know that's the reason that they came. They thought, okay, we got a more player-friendly head coach. And that's, you know, it's not to knock Babcock. 10 years of getting barked at in the organization. Now it's time to bring in a more friendlier approach, bring in a coach with more of a friendlier approach for the players. That's just the cycle of sports. And you know the next Red Wings coach is going to be more like Scotty Bowman, like Babcock, a guy that's going to get on the players. But Jeff Blashill is going to get on the players. He's not going to let them have a free pass. No manager does that. It's just he's going to do it in a much nicer way. And this team is poised to continue the playoff streak. And I'm happy. I just need now I want to see the progression of these young players, because we basically said to them, Tatar, Nyquist, Pulkkinen, you know, potentially Mantha and Dylan Larkin, if they get, you know, some playing time. These are the guys that are going to be the guys that score. Abdelkader, Helm. You now need to produce and show us that you're going to progress, compete for the job, and show us that Ken Holland was justified in putting in his faith with you guys, because Ken Holland only has a 3-year deal left. He could be out the door too.
Yeah, I believe this season, the beginning of the season, we're in position to really be fighting for a top spot in the East. We have the players. If we can stay healthy.
Now it's a little bit optimistic. Top spot.
It's optimistic. And it's also saying, hey, you get almost a full season from Pavel Datsyuk, from Hank Zetterberg, that you're having those guys for somewhere between 75 and 82 games. It could all fall the right way. Datsyuk's probably gonna be out for a little bit in the beginning of the season, so you know it's gonna rely on Brad Richards anchoring that second line. And I think, you know, he's a winner. He's fresh off a Stanley Cup championship with the Blackhawks. It'll be interesting to see, you know, how are they all gonna fit. It's really gonna be interesting to watch the guys from Grand Rapids come up here. I want Pulkkinen to be on the roster the entire year. And, you know, Mantha and Larkin, you know, I'm not sure. I think they're both really good. Was it Devellano? He kind of spoke out about Mantha. Maybe that lights a fire under him. But, you know, we'll just have to wait and see, really.
Yeah, I just hope that it's like I said, and the big picture is with Detroit teams and the athletes around town is, I'd like, you know, why not us? Why can't a Mantha come in and be like a Sidney Crosby? We're now in the situation when you kind of look at all the teams, our prospects come in highly touted, and they kind of like take their time easing their way in. I just want a guy to come on in like a JV, boom, show us that that's the guy. So JD Martinez is showing us that. Maybe Stanley can be that guy. We all thought maybe KCP could be that guy. He's kind of doing the whole take your time, build your way up. It's not disallowed, or it's not. There's no rule that says a young player has to be taking his time through the progress and da-da-da-da. There's great players under 25 in all sports. It's just right now with us, the ones that we're drafting and bringing into the organization we get all excited, we unwrap the present, and it's kind of like a used product. Know what I mean? Come on in.
Who do you think has a better chance to make the big team this year, Anthony Mantha or Dylan Larkin?
No, I think Anthony Mantha needs another year or so to kind of show, hey, that he needs to consistently produce in a big time league. The league that he scored 50 goals in is not really a defensive major checking league. They just let the players kind of skate a little bit and not check as much. The league in Grand Rapids is hardcore. It's serious. If you can produce there, it kind of leads the organization to believe you can play on the big stage. So he's got to score a lot of points consistently in Grand Rapids. And I like the fact they got the Oilers ex-head coach to be there now, and he can kind of oversee Mantha. But Dylan Larkin has a chance to be that guy that comes in and maybe produces 20 goals fast.
Do you think he has a chance to actually make the Red Wings?
I do. I think that he's come out and said he wants to make it. So training camp will be great to watch, and the preseason to see how he does. It's going to be tough to fit in.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be tough because
it's not typical of the Red Wings to do that, to move someone along from, boom, college, boom, right to the starting lineup. It's tough to do. Yeah. But if he comes out, gets 10 goals in the preseason, he'll be there quick. Show us.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be a reason that he foregoed, his sophomore through senior season in Michigan to come out and sign with the team.
It's an exciting time for the Wings, man. I'm excited to see the Pistons and Wings next year and see how the young players fit in.
Maybe Dylan Larkin and Anthony Mantha are two guys who would actually bring some more excitement. Yeah. Because I mean, everyone always says, you got the foreign players, you got Datsuk. He's not really an interesting guy to talk to, but you got Dylan Larkin. He went to Michigan. He's going to be exciting. I mean, one of everyone's favorite players is Justin Abelkader because he's a Michigan guy. So,
and I think it's good that they got a young coach who's had experience with these guys. So it's not one of those situations where you got a Stanley Cup team and you're bringing in a young head coach. No, you got a team that's relatively young that just might need that fresh voice in the locker room back there to kind of keep them motivated when things get tough. It can get draining on guys, and my opinion is I like coaches like Babcock. That's my preference. I like the guy in charge to bring a little bit of fear, but I understand the new age athlete needs to be coddled just a little bit to keep going, to keep motivated with the grind and everything. So Jeff Blashill, everyone said positive things about him. I think he's going to do a great job year one. He's got to get him to the playoffs.
I agree.
Get him to the playoffs.
Exciting times for pretty much all of our sports teams except for maybe the Tigers. But we're going to take another break. When we come back, we got Length or Girth, and we'll wrap it up on the Motor City Sports Rant, DetroitSportsPodcast.com.
Yes, sir. Lots of ways to interact with the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Follow us on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. That's where you need to go. During the games, 24/7, we're basically tweeting. We're giving away lots of free gear. Lots of Detroit t-shirt companies have messaged us and been like, hey, we like what you guys are doing. You guys got a lot of engaged followers. We'll give you some t-shirts to give away to your followers. So I love having contests and giving away t-shirts to the fans of the podcast. So follow us on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. We don't censor too many people. We like to hear all sorts of opinions regarding Detroit sports. So I like to think that we are the most interactive social media platform in the city of Detroit. That's what we wanted to create. You can follow us, follow the host at Jarvi the King, at Vinny Stubbs, at Adam R. Strauss, and at Detroit Podcast. Definitely follow our Twitter page, and you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Periscope, anywhere in regards to social media. Give us a look. All you got to do is search Detroit Sports Podcast, and we're easy to find. And now, back to the Motor City Sports Rant, DetroitSportsPodcast.com.
Motor City Sports Rant, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Before we get into it, I want to give a big thanks to the Detroit Sports Nation. They're a great website. They're a great place to go to get any Detroit sports content. If you want the latest news, they're a great place to follow. Follow them on Facebook. Follow them on Twitter. Go to their website, DetroitSportsNation.com. You can find our podcast there. You can listen to us. You can listen to Doc and Jock. You can listen to their podcast. But I want to give a big thanks to those guys, and they're great.
Yeah, a lot of great writers, a lot of great content. If you're a fan of Detroit sports, for sure. I know some outlets are downsizing. That franchise, Detroit Sports Nation, is only on the uptick. Lots of great writers, great content, 24/7. They're putting up stuff. DetroitSportsNation.com, like Jason said. Check it out.
And now I feel a little dirty doing this without him, and I'm gonna pour one out for Vinny. But it is time.
You said rub one out for Vinny?
I'm going to pour one out for Vinny, not rub one out. That's what Vinny would do for me. But
oh my God!
It's time for Length or Girth. John Macaroon, the Doc. Dude, hey dude. I can't do Vinny's impression of you.
Doc here for DetroitSportsPodcast.com.
First question, Length or Girth? Justin Verlander had a great outing on Friday. Went 7 2/3, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. Is this what we're going to be seeing going forward, Length or Girth?
Girth. I just think that Justin Verlander, as long as he just wants to rear back, throw fastballs, and not kind of change up his approach, I don't think that he's going to have a lot of long-term success. I'm seeing maybe if he has a full season, maybe like a 15-12 type pitcher. Everyone that's kind of talking and evaluating him has said that he's not willing to change. He's going to rear back and throw a bunch of fastballs and not really look at the art of pitching and things like that. So as long as you just saw it in this, I believe the series versus the White Sox. He reared back through a 96-mile-an-hour fastball, and the guy maybe it was Toronto. The guy reared back, he threw a 96-mile-an-hour fastball, and the guy just launched it. And major league hitters can hit fastballs. He's not throwing 100 miles an hour. He's throwing about 95 to 97. And as long as he doesn't get consistently find his location and command of his pitches, he's not going to be that successful. He'll get hit around, and you can see it when he gets up there to start pitching. He gives up 1 and 2 runs early in games, and he might be more injury prone as his career progresses. So the level of expectation has gone down where people just want him to be a third starter. With that contract, he should be a number 2 solid, but I think Girth. I think that he's going to be up and down pitcher.
I'm going to go length. I've always loved Justin Verlander. I said at the beginning of the season that he's going to be good. And I know all of you guys keep saying that he got his FU money and he's gone. But I think this last start was really a sign, showing that he was starting to use more of his pitches. And I think he's a professional baseball player. I think he knows that he needs to change. I think it's hard, when he was an ace for so long and he was able to get by on his fastballs. I think this last start really showed him, hey, I use more of my pitches. I'm able to go deeper in games. I'm able to, have similar numbers as when I was throwing, close to 100 miles an hour. I'm not sure if he's going to be as good. I think you'll probably see similar outings, maybe like 6, 7, 8 innings where he gets, he may have hits, but I think he'll work in more of his change-ups, more of his curveballs, where he'll get more ground ball outs, because that's really what he's going to have to become, is a ground ball out pitcher.
Okay, yes or no in this contract with the next 4 or 5 years at $28 million? Does he ever see 18 wins or plus?
I definitely.
I'd say no.
I think he can. He has all the tools and all the skill.
I'd say no. 15 to 18 max.
And you are entitled to your opinion. But we're not here for your opinion. We're here for length or girth. Question number 2. Stanley Johnson likely coming off the bench to start the season. He's the number 8 pick this year for the Pistons.
Length. I think he will not have a chance to start prior to at least half the games in the season. So at least 41 games, maybe the All-Star break, whatever, in that time frame. I think that they're going to let him come along slowly. He might show flashes as the 6th man, some games versus some teams, because not all the teams in the league like to play defense, and I think he'll be showcased. And I think Stan Van Gundy will likely try to insert him in spots where he can be successful. But until he becomes a consistent starter, it's really tough to do your first year, especially when you're working on your shot consistently. And the NBA is a much faster league. He'll see switches that he's never seen before. He'll see defensive sets that are really different and that he's not used to. And it'll take a time for him. So I think Stan Van kind of is going to ease Stanley Johnson in. Don't look for him to start until at least midway if he does it all this year. Length.
Well, if length for you is 41 games, then I will agree with you. Length. Because the only way that he starts in the beginning of the season is if Marcus Morris comes out and is just terrible. Which I think Morris, he'll be serviceable. He'll be able to... He's going to give you at least... You can at least rely on him for half a season. So I think Stanley Johnson, he'll do his time. He'll work and he will be in... You'll see him. But you're just not going to see him starting. And you're going to see flashes, definitely. And when the time comes, SVG, he's going to put him in. So I will agree with you, length. But we're definitely going to see him starting by the end of this year.
They better.
Question number 3 in length or girth. The Red Wings. They have not made the conference finals, let alone the Stanley Cup finals, since we lost the cup in 2009. Does that continue this year? Are we not even going to make the conference finals? Length or girth?
Ooh, that's a good question. Length or girth conference finals for the Red Wings? I think, that's a good question. I think long and hard. The fan in me wants to say girth. I want to say they get there this year, but it's really tough. But I'm going to, objectively, I got to say length. I think Jeff Blashill needs a season to instill his system, get everybody on board, pick up one or two pieces, and really see how Peter Mrazek adjusts to being the full-time starter. Does he get injured? Is he able to handle the rigors of a long season? Can he handle 40 to 50 games? Can he handle the rigors of a long NHL season and the playoffs? And right now, what's been happening with the Wings is their deadline pickups have been a little bit older players, older veterans, and they sometimes haven't panned out. You had David Legwan brought in. He kind of was a dud. He kind of came in with some a little bit of fanfare. And then last year, Cole was brought in. He went out with a season-ending injury, wasn't brought back. So I would say we are within probably 3 years we'll get there. I would say probably not this season. This season we're looking to make a deep run. But the season after is when I would realistically expect the big push. So a season length.
I'm going to go Girth here.
This season, wow.
I think they have the chance to make the conference finals because, I don't know.
Optimistic, Jason.
And I'm always going to be optimistic. I'm a fan, and, I don't think it's really that far out. We almost beat Tampa Bay this year. We took them to Game 7. So why couldn't we make the conference finals? Tampa Bay went to the finals.
They did, but they wrote it. They had. When you look at it, the teams in the East are massive. They're young and talented with speed. You got Tampa Bay, Boston, Toronto is going to retool. It's going to take time.
Toronto, come on!
You don't think?
No,
Oh, we're going to have that.
Love Toronto.
I like the fact.
Go root for Mike Babcock and Toronto.
Hey, if you're a fan, you're optimistic. Shanahan, Babcock together. How length or girth with them? Real fast bonus. Conference finals.
Girth. No, length. They're never going to make the conference finals.
They'll find their.
I don't think Mike Babcock. He's not going to win a championship with Toronto.
Oh, okay.
They don't have anybody.
Okay, maybe it's the future topic.
They traded away Kessel.
Okay, I'll put that. I'll note that. Duly noted. Optimistic Jason for Detroit is not optimistic with Toronto.
No, and when we're 6 years down the line doing this, you're going to be like, oh man, I'm pulling out this paper that says that Jason was right.
Okay, no, you think so? You think this season they can get through the minefield of the teams with massive size? You got the Rangers. We didn't even talk about them.
The NHL playoffs, it's get in and see what you can do, and the Wings, they definitely have enough to get there, and it's going to rely on, it's going to depend on who they have come playoff time. If you have a healthy Datsuk, Zetterberg, Cronwall, Mike Green stays healthy, we're going to be set.
See, I'm going to tell you, it's not just get in and see what you can do. It's get in, have strong goaltending, have great special teams, have secondary scoring from your second through fourth lines, and
I think we're going to see that though.
I
think you see Mrazek. He's the building
optimistically
block.
You could say that, but the last couple seasons at crunch time, we've kind of faded. And you are kind of hoping that these guys, and I am too, that they take the next step. What if they can't? What if the players in the East, like the young players of Tampa Bay, the Rangers, and the other teams that are up and coming, Montreal, and you got to remember, Carey Price, the goaltender for Tampa Bay.
Choke.
Well, okay, we'll see. Carey Price,
he's a great goalie. I get it.
Going into this season, we were talking like we had the worst goaltending, and we're talking optimistically, but maybe Mrazek's not as good as those guys. Remember what we said. We have a lot of young, talented players with prospects. We have a lot of prospects. Are they going to take that next step? And Carey Price is a proven goaltender. Mrazek's a prospect.
He's a proven goaltender who loses in the playoffs.
True. But right now, Mrazek's is still a prospect in my eyes. He's got to show me. Show me what's up.
Well, they will show you.
That's already too bad. They better.
And that's the end of Length or Girth.
Yes, sir.
And that's just about the end
we would do
this episode.
We would do Bar of the Week, but Jason likes to watch softball games. I like to hang out with my kids. We're not going to the bars this week, right?
My Bar of the Week is my house. I'm going to go there, and there's a 1-to-1 guy to dude ratio. Unless you want to count, I guess you could say it's a 1-to-2 dude ratio if you want to count my dog, but yeah, it's going to be a fun time this week at my house.
Yeah, me too.
So I please ask you not to come to my house, but not because I don't like all you guys, but we don't like people on our
Jason's
lawn.
Jason's cover charge is too high. You don't want to go there. You can get cheaper drinks somewhere else. Yeah, myself, I'm just going to go home and try to pray that the Tigers win. And you been watching anything else sporting wise that's caught your attention?
I watched a little bit of Wimbledon. I watched
nice. Yes,
Serena Williams. She won the Wimbledon title this morning.
Serena and Jordan Spieth have a chance to do some damage.
I think Williams has a little bit better chance.
In terms of golf too, we didn't bring up Rory McIlroy. The genius is playing soccer, and he's got playing soccer with his homies out of the British Open. First Open champion not to defend his title since Ben Hogan back in the 50s. Ridiculous.
Whatever.
Don't play. So basically, we got to do a PSA for you athletes out there. Is to basically, and you can put the nice PSA music behind my voice, and you can say, "Listen, athletes out there, we know you're making a ton of money. We know you like to have fun, but please pay respects to your organization. Pay respects to your sponsors. If you're Rory McIlroy, don't play soccer in the middle of the golf season, right ahead of the British Open. If you're JPP, don't light off fireworks. If you're DeAndre Levy, don't climb on a plane and just risk yourself falling off. What if you would have fell off? Imagine that story. Star linebacker for the Lions, one of the rare linebackers, falls off a plane and ends his life. Just be smart out there. Don't make stupid choices. And listen, money talks, bullshit walks. If you want to have fun, pay someone else to have the fun for you. And be safe and smart. That's the PSA for you athletes out there, free from the doc. No problems here at the Motor City Sports Rant. What did I tell you before we started, Jason? That you would sit down and an hour and a half would pass, and it would seem like that. And that's what's happened. I really enjoyed doing this, man.
It was nice. And we didn't even talk about it. It is a Detroit, it's a Detroit show, but we didn't even get into the U.S. Women's World Cup. They won. I think Adam gave them a good 5-minute. You're not listening to. So I guess that was enough.
Yeah, we gave them love.
But congrats to the women.
Yes, great stuff for soccer. You know it.
We'll be back next week. Hopefully, Vinny can grant us with his presence. But for now, I'm Jason Jarvi.
I'm John the Doc Macaroon.
Who are you?
I'm John the Doc Macaroon. Trying to fill in for Vinny. I think I did an okay job, but I definitely enjoy listening to Vinny and hear his.
There wasn't enough balls reference. I'll give you that.
You know what? This was a different kind of week in Detroit sports and Detroit sports podcast. Drew and Mark were on vacation. Vinny Stubbs on vacation. So no one was hung. Everyone's kind of limp, and that's just how it is.
Yeah.
But it's coming back.
It's going to be rock hard next week on the Motor City Sports Rant, Detroit Sports Podcast.com.
See ya.
Okay, nice, idiot. You. Bye-bye.
Good day, sir. I said good day.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Loser.